Imagine stepping into the world of Pink Floyd, where soaring guitar riffs and haunting lyrics created a legacy that still echoes today. But behind the music lies a story of rivalry, heartbreak, and raw human struggle. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on David Gilmour, the guitar genius whose soulful melodies defined Pink Floyd, and the battles, both personal and professional, that shaped his life. From his explosive clashes with Roger Waters to his quiet regrets over Syd Barrett. And the toll of fame on his family, this is the untold story of a man whose brilliance came with a cost. This is a journey you won't want to miss, so stick with me until the very end for the full, unfiltered truth. Let's start where it all began, the heart of Pink Floyd. In the late 1960s, David Gilmour joined a band already teetering on the edge. Syd Barrett, the original frontman, was unraveling, his mental health and drug use pulling him away from the group he'd helped create. Gilmour, a talented guitarist and Barrett's friend, was brought in to fill the void. Picture this, a young musician stepping into a dream role, but with the weight of replacing someone he cared about. It wasn't just about playing guitar. It was about keeping Pink Floyd alive while watching Barrett's spiral. Barrett saw Gilmour as both a lifeline and a rival, someone saving the band but also taking his place. That tension set the stage for everything that followed, a shadow that would linger over Gilmour's career. By the 1970s, Pink Floyd was a global phenomenon thanks to albums like Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. At the center of it all were Gilmour and Roger Waters, two creative forces who seemed unstoppable. Waters was the visionary, crafting lyrics that dug into the darkest corners of the human experience: war, alienation, madness. Gilmour was the soul, his guitar weaving melodies that made those stories soar. Think of Comfortably Numb or 10 songs where Waters' words and Gilmour's riffs blended into something timeless. But as the band's fame grew, so did the cracks in their partnership. Success brought pressure, and pressure brought conflict. Waters saw himself as the leader, the one driving Pink Floyd's ambitious concepts. Gilmour, though, wasn't content to just play along. He wanted his voice heard, his ideas valued. The stage was set for a showdown that would change the band forever. The breaking point came during the making of The Wall in 1979. This wasn't just an album. It was Waters' magnum opus, a sprawling story of isolation and pain. He poured everything into it, taking near total control. For Waters, this was personal, his chance to tell a story that came from his own struggles. But for Gilmour, it felt like being pushed aside. He was used to shaping songs, adding his touch to make them shine. But now he was fighting for every note. The studio became a war zone. Every decision, from a guitar solo to a lyric tweak, sparked tension. Waters saw Gilmour's reluctance as a lack of commitment, like he wasn't fully on board with the vision. Gilmour, meanwhile, felt like Waters was acting like a tyrant, shutting him out of the process. Can you imagine the frustration? Being part of something as massive as The Wall, but feeling like your contributions don't matter? The tension wasn't just about music, it was deeply personal. According to Waters, Gilmour's resentment grew from feeling overshadowed. He was a guitar legend, revered for his soulful playing, but Waters' presence loomed large. Gilmour reportedly felt like his artistry was seen as secondary, like he was just the guy who played the solos while Waters wrote the story. That kind of dynamic would weigh on anyone. Small acts of defiance crept in, Gilmour tweaking arrangements at the last minute, pushing back on Waters' decisions. It was his way of reclaiming some control, but it only deepened the divide. By the time The Wall was released, a masterpiece that topped charts and inspired a film, the two were barely speaking. The album was a triumph, but the cost was there. Partnership, things got worse with the final cut in 1983. This was Waters' project through and through, a deeply personal exploration of war and loss. Gilmour felt like a guest in his own band, his contributions minimized. The sessions were cold, hostile, with the two men communicating through glares and sharp words. For Gilmour, it wasn't just about creative differences anymore. It was about respect. He felt sidelined, undervalued, and the bitterness was palpable. Waters, on the other hand, believed he was carrying the band, that his vision was what made Pink Floyd great. The album was released to mixed reviews, and for many fans, it felt like the end of an era. The truth was, Pink Floyd was fracturing. And the rift between Gilmour and Waters was at the heart of it. In 1985, Waters made a shocking move. He left Pink Floyd, convinced the band couldn't survive without him. For him, Pink Floyd was his vision, his story. But Gilmour wasn't ready to let it go. He took charge, determined to prove that the band could thrive under his leadership. This was his moment to step out of Waters' shadow and show the world what he could do. Albums like A Momentary Lapse of Reason and The Division Bell were Gilmour's chance to shine. These records were filled with his signature sound, lush, melodic, and emotional. Songs like Learning to Fly and On the Turning Away showed his ability to craft music that connected with fans. But the critics weren't always kind. Some said these albums lacked the depth and ambition of Pink Floyd's earlier work, that they were too polished, too safe. For Waters, this was validation proof that Pink Floyd needed his dark, cerebral touch to be truly great. For Gilmour, though, it was about more than critics. It was about legacy. He poured everything into keeping Pink Floyd alive, not just for the fans but for himself. Every guitar solo, every song was a statement. He was more than Waters' sidekick. But the rivalry never faded. Waters' comments over the years painted Gilmour as jealous, insecure, someone who struggled to accept his role in the band. Gilmour, for his part, stayed quieter, letting his music speak. Yet the shadow of their conflict loomed over every album, every tour. Fans were divided, some loyal to Waters, others to Gilmour, and the question lingered. Could Pink Floyd ever be as great without both of them together? Let's step back to that earlier moment with Syd Barrett, because it's a piece of Gilmour's story that adds so much depth. When Gilmour joined Pink Floyd in 1968, he wasn't just replacing a bandmate. He was stepping into a tragedy. Barrett was the band's creative spark, a visionary whose whimsical songs defined their early sound. But his struggles with mental health and drugs made it impossible for him to continue. Gilmour, who'd known Barrett from their Cambridge days, was thrust into an impossible role. He had to keep the band going while watching his friend fall apart. Barrett's visits to the studio, erratic and heartbreaking, left a mark on everyone. For Gilmour, it was personal. He admired Barrett, and now he was taking his place, carrying the band forward while Barrett faded into isolation. That guilt stayed with Gilmour. Songs like Shine On You Crazy Diamond were a tribute to Barrett, a way to honor the friend they'd lost, but they were also a reminder of what could have been. Years later, Gilmour spoke about his regret, wondering if the band could have done more to help Barrett. When Barrett died in 2006, it reopened those wounds. Gilmour was left grappling with questions that had no answers. Could they have saved him? Did they do enough? It's a side of Gilmour we don't often see the man behind the guitar carrying the weight of a friendship that shaped his life. Imagine creating music that millions love, but knowing it came at the cost of someone you cared about. That's the kind of burden Gilmour lived with. Gilmour's perfectionism wasn't just a factor in Pink Floyd. It defined his work outside the band, too. Let's talk about a moment that shows this side of him, his collaboration with Ringo. Star in the late 1980s, this should have been a match made in rock. Having Pink Floyd's guitar god and the Beatles' beloved drummer, but it turned into a clash of opposites. Ringo was all about feel, bringing his easygoing vibe to the studio. He loved to jam, let the music flow, and see where it took them. Gilmour, though, was meticulous. Every note had to be perfect, every arrangement polished. For him, music was a craft that demanded discipline. Picture them in the studio, Ringo ready to dive in, Gilmour stopping to fine-tune every detail. It was a recipe for tension. The sessions quickly turned sour. Ringo felt stifled, like his creativity was being suffocated by Gilmour's need for control. Gilmour, meanwhile, saw Ringo's laid-back approach as careless, a lack of seriousness that clashed with his work ethic. Arguments flared, and what started as an exciting project became a battleground. In the end, the collaboration fell apart, leaving both men frustrated. Ringo walked away feeling like Gilmour's rigidity made the process unbearable. Gilmour, on the other hand, saw it as a reminder of how hard it was to work with someone who didn't share his vision. This wasn't just a one-off. It showed how Gilmour's perfectionism could push people away. His brilliance made him a master, but it also made collaboration a challenge. It's a glimpse into the cost of genius, the way it can isolate even the greatest artists. Now, let's turn to Gilmour's personal life, because it's a vital part of his story. Behind the music and the fame, he was a man trying to balance his art with his role as a husband and father. His first marriage to Virginia Hasselbeck began with promise, but the demands of Pink Floyd took a toll. Picture this, Gilmour in the studio, perfecting every track while Virginia was at home, raising their young children. The life of a rock star meant long nights, endless tours, and a schedule that left little room for family. Virginia carried the weight of their household, while Gilmour was out performing for thousands of fans. The distance between them grew, not just in miles, but in emotions. Resentment built, and arguments became a constant in their relationship. For their children, it was a bittersweet reality. They had a father whose music inspired millions, but he was often absent. Imagine the mix of pride and longing watching your dad on stage, knowing he's a hero to so many, but wishing he was there for your school play or birthday. Gilmour's drive for perfection in his music meant sacrifices at home, and those sacrifices added up. By the late 1980s, the marriage was over. The divorce wasn't just the end of a relationship. It was a moment of reckoning for Gilmour. He had to face the cost of his choices, the moments he'd missed, the family he'd let slip away. It was A wake-up call, a chance to reflect on what really mattered. Gilmour eventually found love again, marrying Polly Sampson and building a new life. But the scars of his first marriage lingered. They shaped how he approached his family, his music, everything. He became more intentional, trying to find a balance between his art and his personal life. It's a side of Gilmour that humanizes him, showing us that even rock stars face the same struggles we do, trying to be there for the people they love while chasing their dreams. His story is a reminder that fame doesn't shield you from heartbreak or regret. It's what makes him relatable. Even as his music feels larger than life, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Gilmour's legacy. He's more than just a guitarist. He's a symbol of what it means to create something extraordinary while navigating the messines of being human. His work with Pink Floyd, those iconic albums, those unforgettable solos, changed music forever. But his story is also about the battles he fought, both with others and within himself. His rivalry with Waters wasn't just about egos. It was about two people with different visions trying to hold on to their place in a band that meant everything to them. His guilt over Barrett showed his heart, his ability to carry love and loss through the years. His clash with Ringo revealed the cost of his perfectionism, and his personal struggles showed the toll of a life in the spotlight. What sets Gilmour apart is how his music reflects those struggles. When you listen to a song like Comfortably Numb, you're not just hearing a guitar solo. You're hearing the weight of his journey, the joy, the pain, the longing. His playing is emotional, raw, like he's pouring his soul into every note. That's why Pink Floyd's music still resonates, why it feels timeless. It's not just about the sound. It's about the story behind it, the human experiences that shaped it. Gilmour's life shows us that genius doesn't come without flaws, that the same passion that creates beauty can also create conflict. As we wrap up, let's reflect on what Gilmour's story teaches us. It's a reminder that even the greatest artists are human, driven by the same insecurities and ambitions as the rest of us. His journey is one of triumph, creating music that will live forever, but also of sacrifice. He faced jealousy, loss, and the challenge of staying true to himself while the world watched. For fans, his music is a gift, a way to connect with something bigger. But for Gilmour, it was a lifelong pursuit, one that came with highs and lows, victories and regrets. His story is a testament to the power of art to move us, but also to the human cost of creating it. So, what's your takeaway from David Gilmour's journey? Maybe it's the reminder to chase your dreams, but not at the expense of the people you love. Maybe it's the idea that conflict, while painful, can lead to something beautiful. Or maybe it's just the urge to put on a Pink Floyd album and lose yourself in those incredible songs. Whatever it is, Gilmour's story is one worth remembering. It's a look at the man behind the music, the struggles behind the solos, and the heart behind the legend. If this deep dive into David Gilmour's life moved you, don't forget to hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Drop a comment below, tell me, what's your favorite Pink Floyd song, or what part of Gilmour's story hit you the hardest? And if you want more stories about the legends who shaped music, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's keep exploring the music that inspires us together.